My sister used my backyard for her dream wedding. But that wasn't even close to the worst part. I'm Hazel Moore, 30, a marketing strategist from Portland, Oregon. I've worked my entire adult life to build a calm, independent life away from my family's endless drama. My home, a small but elegant house overlooking the lake, was my sanctuary. I designed every inch of it myself, from the brick patio to the rose garden I planted with my own hands. To me, it wasn't just a house. It was peace. So when my younger sister Sophie called one morning, voice dripping with excitement, I didn't expect it to end in betrayal. "Hazel, I have the most amazing news. We finally set a date." She and her fiancé Nathan had been planning their wedding for nearly a year. I was genuinely happy for her. But then she added, "The venue fell through, and Nathan's family can't host that many guests. But your backyard is perfect. It's got that romantic lakeside vibe. Just for one day, please." My stomach tightened. Hosting a wedding wasn't a small favor. It was chaos, expense, and risk, all rolled into one. Still, I hesitated because saying no to Sophie had never been easy. She was the family favorite, bright, charming, and forever the baby. Mom adored her. Dad spoiled her. And whenever Sophie messed up, someone else always cleaned up the mess. Usually me. "Sophie," I said carefully, "that's a big ask. You know I keep things minimal here." "Oh, come on," she pleaded. "It's just one day. We'll clean everything up, I promise. You won't even notice we were there." Famous last words. Against my better judgment, I agreed. But I made the rules clear. One day only. No overnight guests. No changes to my property. And the event ends by 10 p.m. sharp. She agreed instantly. Too instantly. I should have known she was already planning to cross every line. A week later, I got the first red flag. Sophie's fiancé, Nathan, texted me. "Hey Hazel, quick question. Would it be okay if we installed a small dance floor over the lawn?" "Totally temporary, of course." Temporary. That word always hides disaster. Then came another text from Sophie. "Also, can we move your patio furniture to the garage for the weekend? The photographers said it'll look more clean in the background." The small wedding she'd promised started sounding like a production. I tried to set boundaries again, but every time I said no, she turned it into guilt. "Hazel, you have so much space. We don't want to rent a venue when you already have the perfect one. You're my sister. Don't you want to be part of my special day?" And then Mom called. "Oh, Hazel, you're doing such a wonderful thing letting Sophie use your home," she said sweetly. "You always were the responsible one." That word, responsible, had become code for the one we can take advantage of. I could feel it happening again. 2 weeks before the wedding, I drove home from work to find trucks in my driveway. 2 of them. Strangers were unloading white chairs, floral arches, and decorative pillars into my backyard. Sophie stood there directing them, clipboard in hand, smiling like she owned the place. "What is going on here?" I demanded. She turned, startled. "Oh hey, I meant to call you. We're just doing a quick setup test. Don't worry, it's all temporary." I looked around, tents half-built, boxes scattered everywhere, tire marks on my lawn. "You're not supposed to be setting up until the day before." "Hazel, chill. You're overreacting." That was her favorite phrase whenever she got caught. That night, I called my best friend and lawyer, Ethan Cole. He'd heard enough of my family stories to know where this was headed. "Ethan, she's turning my house into a wedding venue," I said. "Do you have anything in writing?" he asked. "Just text messages." "Get a written agreement, Hazel. People don't respect boundaries unless there's a consequence." I hated that he was right. So the next day, I drew up a simple contract. The wedding would be a one-day event. Guests must leave by 10 p.m. No one was permitted to stay overnight. No changes, installations, or damage without my consent. When I handed it to Sophie, she looked insulted. "A contract? Between sisters," she scoffed. "Between homeowner and guest," I corrected. Her fiancé tried to smooth it over, but Sophie's eyes hardened. I could see her pride flare up. "You know, Hazel, sometimes you make things harder than they need to be," she said quietly. But she signed it, and I felt a brief, fragile sense of relief. The wedding prep took over my life. Strangers came and went. My driveway was packed with catering vans, decorators, photographers, florists. My peaceful home turned into a construction zone. Still, I bit my tongue. I told myself it's just one day, until I overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. It was the Thursday before the wedding. I was in the kitchen when I heard Sophie talking to Mom in the garden. "After the wedding, Nathan and I might just stay here for a while," she said, laughing. "Hazel doesn't even use the guest house. It'll give us time to save up." Mom chuckled softly. "That's a great idea, honey. Hazel won't mind. She's got space." I froze. "Stay here?" "No, absolutely not." That night I called Ethan again. "You were right. They're planning to move in after the wedding." "Then let's make sure they regret even thinking about it," he said. "Send me everything. Texts, photos, conversations, invoices. If they cross that line, we'll be ready." He started preparing a legal notice of trespass, just in case. The day before the wedding, the final blow hit. A neighbor called to complain that one of the catering trucks had blocked their driveway. Another said people were asking for parking on private property. When I confronted Sophie, she rolled her eyes. "Hazel, stop being so uptight. It's my wedding. It's supposed to be special." "It's my home," I shot back. "You're already pushing every rule." She turned away, muttering, "You'll thank me when you see how beautiful it looks." But that night, as I stood by the window and watched her and Nathan setting up twinkle lights across my trees without permission, something inside me shifted. That uneasy, familiar feeling from years ago, the one that came whenever Sophie took something of mine and Mom said, "Let it go, Hazel, she's your sister." Not this time, because this time I had Ethan, and this time I had proof. The morning of Sophie's wedding felt wrong from the moment I opened my eyes. My backyard, once peaceful, green and quiet, had transformed overnight into something out of a luxury wedding magazine. Rows of white chairs lined the lawn, crystal chandeliers hung from my maple trees, and the scent of roses mixed with fresh-cut grass. And not a single part of it looked like my home anymore. At 6 a.m., I stepped outside to get some air and nearly collided with two strangers carrying champagne crates. "Delivery for the bride," one said without even looking at me. The bride, not the homeowner. I scanned the crowd, decorators, photographers, caterers, even a makeup team buzzing around Sophie like she was royalty. When she finally turned and saw me, she lit up in her satin robe, holding a mimosa. "Hazel, isn't it perfect? The view, the flowers, everything. This place was made for weddings." I folded my arms. I said, "No permanent changes, Sophie." "Relax," she said lightly. "It's all removable. And don't worry, Nathan and I decided we'll handle cleanup personally." I bit back the retort sitting on my tongue. There was no point fighting before her big day. Let her have her fairy tale. But I took photos of everything. The dance floor, the floral arches, the catering setup. Ethan's voice echoed in my head. "Document everything, Hazel. Especially the things they said they wouldn't do." By noon, the guests began arriving. Cars lined the entire street. Laughter, chatter, and the sound of a string quartet filled the air. I tried to blend in, smile, congratulate, keep my cool. I even helped the photographer organize a family picture. Then I noticed something that made my jaw tighten. The seating chart. Under venue, it read, "The Moore Estate." Not Hazel's home. Not private residence. Just the Moore Estate. I could feel anger simmering under my skin. They'd turned my name, my property, into part of their show. Still, I smiled for the camera, because I knew what they didn't, that my lawyer had already filed a precautionary property declaration that morning, officially recording the home as my sole legal possession. No one could claim otherwise. The ceremony itself was beautiful, I'll admit, Nathan looked emotional as Sophie walked down the aisle. The guests cried. The music swelled. For a few moments, even I forgot to be angry. My little sister looked genuinely happy. And despite everything, I wanted that for her. But the peace didn't last long. As soon as the ceremony ended, the rules I'd set vanished like smoke. The DJ turned the music up past 10. Guests danced on my patio, spilling drinks on my furniture. Someone dragged chairs from my dining room to the lawn. And Sophie? She didn't even look my way. At 9:45, I gently reminded her, "Sophie, it's almost 10. Time to start wrapping up." She laughed. "Oh, don't be so uptight. Everyone's having fun." By 10:30, the music was louder. By 11 o'clock, I saw people jumping into the lake in their clothes. My lake. I'd had enough. I stepped up to the DJ booth. Music off. Now. The DJ hesitated, looking to Sophie. She rolled her eyes. "Hazel, seriously? Can you not ruin one day for me?" All eyes turned toward us. My face burned. "You're in my house," I said quietly but firmly. "Party's over." Her smile vanished. "Fine," she snapped. "We'll end it. But you're unbelievable." I walked inside, shaking, heart pounding in my throat. I hated scenes like that, but boundaries had to mean something. At midnight, the guests finally cleared out. Or so I thought. The next morning, I came downstairs to the sound of voices in the kitchen. I froze. Sophie and Nathan were sitting at my table, still in pajamas. Coffee mugs. Toast. Like they lived there. Morning. Sophie said cheerfully, "What are you doing here?" I asked. "Oh, it was too late to drive home last night. We stayed in the guest house. Don't worry, we'll clean up." My stomach twisted. "You signed an agreement, Sophie. No overnight guests." "Hazel, stop being dramatic," she said, rolling her eyes. "We were exhausted." I opened my mouth to argue. Then Mom's car pulled into the driveway. She walked in like she owned the place, smiling wide. "There you are. I brought breakfast." Mom's voice, warm and commanding, filled the house. "I told them to stay the night," she said, waving off my glare. "You didn't want them driving so late." "That's not your decision, Mom. This is my home." "Hazel, for heaven's sake," she sighed. "It's just one night." There it was again. That phrase, just one night. But as the morning stretched into afternoon, the one night turned into unpacking. Sophie and Nathan began hauling boxes from their car into the guest house. Clothes, toiletries, even kitchen appliances. "What is this?" I demanded. "We decided to stay for a while," Sophie said, not meeting my eyes. "Just until we find a new place. Nathan's lease ended, and the market's crazy right now." I stared at her. "You didn't even ask me." "You wouldn't have said yes," she replied flatly. "Mom said it's better to ask forgiveness than permission." My chest burned. I wanted to scream, but instead I pulled out my phone and texted Ethan. "Hazel, they moved in. Boxes everywhere. What do I do?" "Ethan, do nothing yet. Don't confront them. Let them hang themselves first." His calm, strategic tone helped me breathe again. "Ethan, keep collecting evidence. Every box, every conversation. I'll draft the notice tonight." By evening, the situation had escalated beyond belief. Nathan parked his truck in my garage. Sophie started rearranging furniture in the guest house. I overheard her on the phone telling a friend, "It's amazing here. Feels like ours already." Ours. That word was gasoline on my fury. Mom was no help. She called to tell me to be supportive and let them stay until they're settled. I'd spent years swallowing my anger to keep the family peace. But this was theft wrapped in manipulation. That night, I sat in my living room, staring at the flickering reflection of the lake through the window. My house didn't feel like mine anymore, but soon it would. Because I wasn't going to fight with words this time. I was going to fight with law. And Sophie? She'd never see it coming. It's been 3 days since my sister's wedding. 3 days since the moment my home stopped feeling like mine. Every morning, I woke up to Sophie's laughter echoing from the guest house and Nathan's truck parked like a trophy in my garage. My kitchen counters were covered with their dishes, my backyard littered with leftover decorations that no one bothered to clean up. And the worst part? They acted like they lived there. "We'll take care of everything soon," Sophie said each time I confronted her. "Just let us get settled first." Settled. That word had become her excuse for everything. By the 4th day, I'd had enough. I stood at the window, coffee in hand, watching Nathan carry another box inside. My hands trembled, but I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. Because while Sophie was busy pretending my home was hers, Ethan and I were preparing something she could never charm her way out of. That morning, Ethan called. "You ready to make this official?" "More than ready," I said. He explained the plan step by step, calm, precise, methodical. "We'll serve a notice to vacate under property trespass law. You already have the signed event contract, photos of the boxes, and messages showing they weren't invited to stay. That's airtight. Will they have to leave immediately?" I asked. "They'll have 48 hours to comply. If they don't, we'll file a civil claim for unlawful occupation." Unlawful occupation. Hearing it phrased that way sent a chill through me. Because that's exactly what it was. Ethan added, "Don't tell them yet. Let them dig deeper. Every text, every claim they make, screenshot it." So that's what I did. When Sophie bragged to our cousin over the phone, "It's like we live in a mini resort. Hazel barely uses the guest house anyway." I recorded it. When she posted a video on Instagram captioned, "Finally home, red heart, #new beginnings." I saved it. When Mom texted, "Just let them stay until they find something. It's family, Hazel." I screenshotted that too. Every piece became evidence. By the end of the week, I'd collected a folder thick enough to fill a court file. But Sophie still thought she had control. That Friday evening, she strutted into my kitchen wearing one of my robe, and grabbed a bottle of wine from my shelf. "Hope you don't mind," she said casually. "We're celebrating. Nathan just got a remote job, so we'll be around a while." I froze. Around a while. I repeated slowly. "Yeah, until we can save up for a down payment. You have so much space, Hazel. It's silly for us to waste money renting somewhere else." My jaw tightened. "This isn't a boarding house. You don't live here." "Technically," she said, pouring herself a glass, "we're family. So what's yours is mine, right?" That was it. The final straw. I walked to my study, opened my laptop, and emailed Ethan one word. Now. 2 days later, on Sunday morning, the doorbell rang. Sophie and Nathan were in the kitchen, having breakfast, when I answered. Standing on the porch was a process server, a calm, polite woman holding a manila envelope. "Delivery for Miss Sophie Reynolds and Mr. Nathan Cross," she said. Sophie frowned. "That's us. What is it?" "You've been served." The woman handed her the envelope and left. Sophie turned to me, confusion on her face. "What is this?" I sipped my coffee. "Why don't you read it?" She tore it open, her smile fading with every line. "A notice to vacate," she stammered. "For unlawful occupation," I said evenly. "You had permission for a one-day event, not to move in." Her voice rose. "Are you seriously threatening me with legal action? I'm your sister." "You're also trespassing," I replied calmly. "You have 48 hours to leave." Nathan stepped forward, scowling. "This is insane. We're family." "Family doesn't steal homes," I said. Sophie's cheeks flushed red. "You're unbelievable, Hazel. You think you're better than everyone because you have money and a nice house. Well, guess what? Mom's on our side." I smiled faintly. "She doesn't own this house. I do." Then I walked away, leaving her standing there shaking with rage. The next 2 days were a storm. Mom called me 10 times. "Hazel, this is cruel. You're kicking your sister out after her wedding. I'm enforcing boundaries, Mom. Big difference. She tried guilt, shame, even tears. But I didn't budge. Meanwhile, Sophie and Nathan stomped around the property like angry tenants, slamming doors, muttering under their breath. At one point, I caught Sophie on the phone whispering to someone. She can't legally kick us out. Mom said the house was bought with family money. That's when I smiled. Because the family money meth? Ethan had already anticipated it. He'd found the title deed, the mortgage records, the bank receipts. Every dollar traced directly to me. That evening, I sent Sophie a copy of the deed with a simple note, just to clear up any confusion. No reply. The following morning, they were gone. No goodbye. No apology. Just silence. The guest house was empty except for a few boxes of leftover decorations and a crumpled wedding invitation on the counter. I should have felt relief, and I did. But underneath, it was something else. Sadness. Sophie wasn't just my sister. She was the person I'd once protected, defended, believed in. And she'd turned around and treated me like a doormat. Later that day, Ethan called. They're out. Finally, I said, good. I'll file to close the notice, just in case they try something later. You really think they might? With people like that? He chuckled dryly. I bet on it. I laughed softly, feeling lighter for the first time in weeks. Thank you, Ethan. Really, I couldn't have done this without you. You could have, he said. You just needed someone to remind you how strong you already are. That night, I stood in my backyard. The string lights from the wedding still hung above the lake, swaying gently in the wind. For a moment, I considered taking them down. But then I decided to leave them, not as a decoration, but as a reminder. A reminder that kindness without boundaries isn't kindness at all. That sometimes family isn't who you protect. It's who you protect yourself from. 2 weeks passed. I thought it was over until the letter arrived. A thick white envelope, addressed in neat handwriting. My stomach tightened when I saw the sender. Sophie Reynolds. Inside was a letter written like a script for guilt. Hazel, Mom says you've overreacted. We talked to a lawyer, and since you used some family funds years ago, the house technically belongs to all of us. You'll be hearing from him soon. I smiled. Of course she'd try one more time. That evening, I forwarded the letter to Ethan. Within minutes, he called, his tone calm but firm. She just made a mistake, Hazel. You ready to end this for good? Absolutely. The next morning, when Sophie and Nathan arrived with their so-called lawyer, they expected another argument. What they found instead was Ethan, already waiting on the porch with a folder in hand. Good morning, he said pleasantly. You must be Mr. Turner. I'm Hazel's attorney. Sophie blinked, caught off guard. Wait, you have your own lawyer. Had him the whole time, I said. He's the reason you got 48 hours instead of none. Ethan laid out the papers. Title deed, transaction records, and the notarized event contract Sophie herself had signed. This shows Ms. Reynolds has full ownership, he said. And here, he turned a page, is your client signed acknowledgement limiting use to a one-day wedding event. Mr. Turner frowned, scanning the documents. Sophie, did you sign this? I thought it was just for the decorations, she stammered. Then I suggest you withdraw your claim, Ethan said. Because if we proceed, you'll be liable for trespass and property damages. The silence was deafening. Nathan muttered something under his breath and turned toward Sophie. You said we could win this. I didn't think she'd have a lawyer. I stepped forward, my voice steady. You should have thought about that before trying to steal my home. Sophie's eyes filled with tears, the kind that used to break me. But not this time. You're really doing this? She whispered. No, Sophie, I said softly. You did this. Ethan handed her a final envelope. This is a formal cease and desist. Any further attempts to claim this property will result in a civil suit. She didn't say another word. She just turned away, Nathan trailing behind. muttering curses I didn't bother to hear. When their car finally disappeared down the road, I exhaled, deeply, freely. Ethan smiled. Told you she wouldn't expect your lawyer waiting. I laughed quietly. No, she didn't. But maybe now she'll finally learn. I'm not the sister she can push around anymore. That night, I sat under the string lights by the lake, the same ones from her wedding. They flickered softly, not as reminders of betrayal anymore, but of victory, because this time I didn't lose my home. I reclaimed my peace,